today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. It's Monday. We're joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. How are you, my friend?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Good, good, good. You have a big weekend watching the Razorbacks against LSU and all of that?
I watched a little of it, but I've quit tweeting so much because it's just, it's not news anymore. They're losing routinely, like the Rice Owls or the Tulane Green Wave, you know, so it just...
Man, that's getting, you're going back to old school there. That's Southwest Conference references.
Well, Rice, but not Tulane.
Yeah.
It's high academic schools challenged in terms of big-time athletics.
You're saying the University of Arkansas is a high academic school?
I'm saying it's challenged in terms of big-time athletics. And probably a good, and yes, a fine institution.
Let's talk politics.
Let's do.
Last Tuesday was a big night for elections across the U.S. Virginia, in particular, was one of the states that had a lot on the ballot, seemed to draw a lot of attention. You suggest that everything kind of fell in line with expectations. Is this? Are you saying that nothing to see here, or do you think there was some consequences?
No, there's something to see. The issue is how much is there to see? There's something to see. I use tennis metaphor because I'm a tennis player, and in tennis you're supposed to hold your serve. That should be your game. And winning Virginia, doing well in New Jersey, winning a couple of things in Washington State, the Democrats were merely holding their serve. But in holding their serve, they were hitting a couple of aces and winning at love. I mean, it was more than just winning. The issue then becomes, does this portend the midterms, the congressional midterms, and does it even portend 2020 when Trump may or may not still be president and on the ballot? We can assume, I think, that he probably will be. That's sort of the debate, because what happened Tuesday was that Democrats and suburban moderates that I thought would deliver victory nationwide to Hillary, but they got outpaced by working class votes in Midwestern states, turned out at fired up, motivated presidential election levels. And others, the Trump base and your garden variety Republicans turned out at typical midterm levels, which is maybe 3/4 what they would in a presidential year. That's what happened. That's usually what happens. There's a pattern for that kind of thing happening in the midterms, so that's interesting. But my point that I try to make still is that as long as the economy's indicators are pretty good, and as long as ISIS is contained reasonably, we haven't, the Democrats cannot count on winning in 2020 simply because of Trump's negatives and the animus toward Trump, or the outrage people have come to take at Trump. I think they had a lot of that in last year and elected him anyway because the Democrats had a poorly performing candidate and an unclear message. So that's the debate I'm having with some Democrats now. This is good for you, but you can't just sit back and win by default the way you did this time. I think it was a default win, particularly in the Virginia governor's race. That candidate was nothing to write home about. I mean, he's a fine fella, but he's not a stirring candidate. He won because of the backlash against Trump and trying to send a message.
In Arkansas, Democrats do appear enthused, not just by those election results, but I think in part due to what Trump has done to the political conversation in the U.S. And we are seeing enthusiasm for Democratic candidates and a surge of Democratic candidates running for some legislative seats and some of the congressional seats. We haven't seen it at the governor's level yet, but we suspect that that's coming. That has to portend well for the Democrats in that at least they are fielding candidates this year, which last cycle they had a dearth of candidates that they didn't present.
There is something happening at the Democratic Party, and I see it's sort of a ships passing in the night. This week in Arkansas, all the old Clinton folks from the '92 presidential race are coming here to celebrate the what would that be? 25th anniversary. But yet, at this very time, I think something vital is happening with the state Democratic Party, something that has to happen. It's weaning itself from this easy legacy of Clinton and having a president come from here and sort of the legacy that the state Democrats have relied on. And we're seeing generational and maybe philosophical change. There are, for example, a Teach for America Teacher of the Year in Arkansas, who then got hired by Baker Curtis to become principal of Baseline Elementary School, which was under duress, and has turned that school. I've been in it. I can tell you, he's turned it around. He is running for the state legislature.
Jonathan Crossley.
Jonathan Crossley. He's running on a theme of education issues that are progressive, that are relatively new, but which may not always mesh with, say, the people who are your standard Democratic constituencies. I mean, like the issue of maybe school choice, the issue of Little Rock, the state takeover, and whether that was good or bad. I'm not trying to burden him with those positions. I'm just saying I see a new generation and a new attitude and a new focus to him, and there are going to be a couple of others of that type. Run. We're going to have a new generation, new idea, impressive young Democratic governor's candidate whose name I cannot tell you right now. I could tell you, but I'm sworn not to tell you, and he yet may decide not to run. But that's and we're seeing that kind of thing. Younger people with new ideas on the state level, but relying on, you're right, the underlying fuel of this is that people, even in Arkansas, because I've been to some of these invisible groups around the state. Indivisible group. Yeah. Not invisible. They're indivisible.
They're quite visible.
They are supremely motivated. And if you get motivation and you get new ideas and impressive candidates, you have the start of something. Not a reinsurgence to take back over the state in the short term, but a vital start of something that's important to a redevelopment of the Democratic Party in Arkansas.
It's an enthusiasm boost,
right,
and that's what
right.
The Democrats have lacked for a couple of cycles now. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. Let's come back and talk a little national, international politics.
If we must.
We must.
Okay.
With John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We're back with more right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
And welcome back to Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. We're with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, we got some national, international stuff to talk about. I'm going to give you two strands. You pick which one you want to go first. You want to go Roy Moore, Alabama, and everything around it, or do you want to go Trump in Asia? How's that for a Monday morning choice for you?
Well, that's an interesting, if not scintillating, choice. I'm going to go with Roy Moore. We talk about Trump every week, and I'm sure you're probably going to bring him up
Let's
today.
talk Roy Moore in Alabama. Obviously, the big story over the last several days has been this these allegations of him with young, underage women. He's denied it. It seems to have galvanized his base. I think this is kind of proof and example number one of how the whole political conversation has changed to you believe what's in your echo chamber and you don't believe what's not in your echo chamber. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. In fact, that's an excellent synopsis of my column to appear in the morning Democrat-Gazette. I don't say it quite as succinctly, but maybe I say it more artfully. Or maybe you say it more artfully. But basically, I think what it comes down to is this galvanizing of his support in Alabama. I think that's happening. I think it's, and this is a psychological insight that I have no credential for, but I think a lot of his folks believe, okay, maybe so. Maybe he did something like this. Maybe he went out with women that were too young. Maybe he sinned as a young man when he was 30. And maybe he's not telling the truth about it now. But in terms of their moral imperative, they believe it's a fair trade to take a guy who may not be admirable, who may be a hypocrite, and put him in the U.S. Senate if it advances the greater cause of trying to stop abortion, to protect unborn children, and trying to stop the cultural change in terms of our acceptance of gays, lesbians, and transgender persons. I think they make a calculation. Now, Democrats are aghast at that, and liberals are aghast. Like, that's just utter hypocrisy. Well, forgive me, but Bill Clinton didn't behave well, right, when he was President of the United States or before. And he has faced these allegations similar to, not identical to, but allegations having to do with sexual misconduct and personal hypocrisy. He was involved with an intern employee in the White House. And Democrats and liberals rallied around him in the same way for the same kinds of reasons. I heard them say time and again, I'm not going to let Ken Starr and the right wing do this. We have evolved into a politics that's all about almost cynical personal calculations out of utter resentment of the other side. Nicholas Kristof in the New York Times Sunday said what I believe: morality in politics in public office. Some say it's just personal morality. Others say it's reflected only in public policy. He says it's got to be both. It's got to be a guy like, Kasich. Even though I disagree with him and I dread the nominees he might make the Supreme Court, I find him to be the genuine article in terms of his personal morality, and in public policy sometimes agree with him. We've got to get to the point where we can demand both and not sell our souls for the greater cause. And I'm proud to say that in the late 90s, one of the finest paragraphs I ever wrote, I think, in my columns, I called on Bill Clinton, in the height of the Lewinsky thing, resign. You fine president, I like your policies, but you've just misplayed this thing in terms of your behavior. And if Gore had become president, I think it would have enhanced his chances to get elected, which might have affected our environmental policies and whether we're in wars. So based on the credential I have by saying that Bill Clinton should have resigned, I think Alabama conservatives ought to stay home or vote against Roy Moore for the same basic reason. And until we can get to the point that people can do that, we're not going to fix our politics.
But you won't be surprised if Roy Moore beats Doug Jones.
I think that he will. Yeah. I mean, I know there's some polls saying it's closing. I think the Democrat happens to be the other thing in this. He's a very good candidate. Mm-hmm. But right now, I think Moore is a favorite to go with the U.S. Senate.
Last question here.
Sure.
President Donald Trump in Asia over the last 10 days, 12 days, about to come back home. Lots of photo ops, a lot of tweeting politically, politically. Did anything get accomplished over there? Did it change anything back here in the United States? Are we
No.
basically right where we were before he left for Asia?
No, I think we've set in with Trump. We know what we've got, and nothing is changing about it. The only thing that could conceivably change substantively is that he would become a more conventional, behaviorally reformed president, and he's incapable of that. So we're just going to continue to rock along, we hope, with the economy percolating well enough, no great crisis, and his odd behavior or his inappropriate behavior and a galvanizing of opposition to him. But this was a week to 10 days of just same old in different venues. He tweeted, "Hey, Putin tells me he didn't do it, and I think he believes it." And John McCain says, "It's not making America great again to undercut your own American intelligence and sort of be sympathetic to an old KGB officer." And it isn't. And you think, wow, that's a powerful tweet from John McCain. But it's the same tweet and same thought.
It's not going to bring about impeachment articles.
No.
Yeah. All right, so if Vladimir Putin said he was not responsible for messing with your columns between when you sent them in and they went to press, you believe him, right?
I would not. Fortunately, I don't think his interests extend to the local level.
You never can tell, John. It's all about making the real news fake news.
Right.
So if you're real news,
And
you're a candidate. You could be a target.
well, yeah, as could more likely our election system in Arkansas. Remember, presidential races are not one national race; they're a bunch of state races. And if you want to, so dipping down to the local level to try to sabotage would be the kind of thing you might expect. Well, we've got a president who gives him the benefit of the doubt, or at least sort of a friendly. I think he didn't. He says he didn't mean to do it, and I think he means he didn't do it.
He's a golfing president. It's all about a mulligan every now and then. So, or maybe bumping the ball up a little closer to the hole.
He is. He's taken more mulligans even than Bill Clinton in his last golf round, and that's a record.
He is John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to sit down with him. Thank you.
You betcha.
Good to see you.
All right.
All right. That's all for today's program. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.